Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a review of the LG 32UP838-W. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's jump into it. Now right off the bat, this is a 32-inch productivity / professional creativity based monitor with a resolution of 3840 by 2160 or 4K. Now this is the perfect resolution to screen size. This brings the PPI, or pixels per inch, essentially how crisp and clear the image of the monitor is actually going to appear to your eye. This brings it to about 138. This means images, movies, and even very small text appears perfectly crisp and clear without any visible pixelation at your typical viewing distance. This is extremely nice for photo and video editing, as you don't really want to be able to see any pixelation. Just makes it so much easier to edit those pictures, or if you're in Premiere, Final Cut, or DaVinci Resolve. All of that is absolutely great with this 4K 32-inch screen size. All right, now for the panel type, this is an in-plane switching or IPS panel, which is exactly what you want for professional or creativity or productivity based usage. All right, now let's talk brightness. Now this is rated for 350 nits, but after testing, this actually hits closer to 400 to 420 nits of brightness, which is absolutely fantastic. This is classic LG. They typically always underdo their brightness on pretty much all of their monitors, but this is a fantastic brightness. It's paired perfectly with this monitor. At full brightness, this is a very vibrant and beautiful image. It also has enough brightness mixed with that matte finish on the display to keep away pretty much all of your reflections, even if you're in a brighter room. And if you're doing color accurate work, photo, video editing, things like that, you're probably going to decrease the brightness, but this is pretty much industry standard across the board. As for HDR, this is capable of HDR, and when it is in HDR, this pushes the max brightness from around 400 to 420 nits up to 465 nits. That's in a 100% window. Now, even though it does increase the brightness, you got to remember this is an IPS panel, so you're not getting a crazy contrast ratio. You're not going to have those super cinematic deep blacks on this panel, but you do have that wider color gamut, so it is still an enjoyable HDR experience, and I did end up using this quite a bit. All right, now let's move on to, well, probably the most important section of the video, and this is colors. This is a big deal with this monitor. Now, after thoroughly testing this monitor, this covers 99.9% of the sRGB color gamut, 82.7% of the Adobe RGB color gamut, and 94.8% of the DCI-P3 color gamut. This is great. Accuracy out of the box was very, very good. Actually, surprisingly good. I knew it was gonna be good. I didn't expect it for it to be this good. Gamma hit a 2.23 with a target of 2.2. I will explain this in just a few seconds, but for all those nerds out there that do wanna know this, this is what it is out of the box, not calibrated yet. It hit 2.23 for Gamma with a target of 2.2. This is, well, very good. Color temperature was also exceptional, hitting 6,444 kelvins with a target of 6,500 kelvins. That's basically perfect out of the box for color temperature. Now, greens were a little bit oversaturated and the reds needed a little bit more saturation, but beyond that, out of the box, the accuracy of the colors was quite good, surprisingly good. Now, after a full calibration, we have some impressive results. Now, firstly, after calibration, color temperature pretty much stayed the same, but this is still good as it was pretty much perfect to begin with. The gamma got even closer at 2.19 with again a target of 2.2. This is extremely good. But the most impressive thing here is the Delta E variance. After calibration, this hit only 0.19 for the Delta E variance. That is very good. Anything under 3 is really good. Anything under 2 is very, very good. Anything under 1 is extremely good and pretty much imperceivable for differences and variances in color. 0.19 is incredibly good. That's high level photo, video editing, color accurate, color grading work. I mean, that's really, really good. If you have no idea what I said, that's okay. The main point here is that out of the box, the accuracy was good enough for professional grade work. Now, if you need really absolutely perfect colors, you will have to do a calibration, but that's pretty much standard across the board, no matter what monitor you get, even if it comes pre-calibrated, which this one does. after calibration, it's exceedingly accurate. This outdid my expectations, but again, this is an ultra fine monitor from LG, so I mean, it did quite well. All right, let's continue on with some cool features about this monitor. This has stock without calibration or anything like that. This has in the color presets an sRGB mode, which is very cool, and a DCI-P3 color mode. So if you are working in those and you don't want to color calibrate your monitor, you can just go right in there, and that will obviously give you a little bit better accuracy for those color spaces, but the most accurate is obviously going to be calibrating this yourself. And that leads us into probably the coolest and best thing with this monitor is that you can do a hardware calibration. Essentially, you can upload your calibration to the hardware of this monitor. So regardless of what you're using, if you're using your MacBook Pro plugged into this, and then you have your desktop PC also plugged into this, and you're saving your color profile for your calibration onto one of those devices, it's going to change when you switch it. Rather, if you do the hardware color profile, if you put your color calibration on the monitor itself, then when you switch between any device, the colors are going to stay exactly the same. This is absolutely imperative for color accurate work when you're constantly switching between different devices. This has that, and you can actually put 2 different calibrations onto this monitor, and it's in the menu system. You will select it just like you select all of your different presets. That is unbelievably awesome. And the last thing with the color is that you can output 10 bits of color at full 60 hertz at 4K, as you expect for this price point and the type of monitor that this is. Let's move on. Contrast ratio. Contrast ratio is exactly what you would expect here with a 1000:1 contrast ratio. So you're not going to get those super deep inky blacks. However, we do kind of expect that. That's the trade-off with this IPS panel, although it is worth it for all of those colors. Now, as for backlight bleed, my unit had absolutely none, which I do expect, as through all of the testing that I've done with LG monitors, which is an absolute ton, they have had the best quality control throughout the entire industry, which is a very good thing. But now let's move on to the menu system and controls, which are absolutely fantastic. Now, in classic LG fashion, this is controlled with a single joystick in the bottom middle chin. It's easy to learn, it's easy and quick to use. I mean, it's just stupid simple. As for the menu system itself, the OSD, it's fairly pretty. It's one of the better looking menu systems in the game, not quite as good as LG's gaming version of the same menu system, but it's very pretty. It's stupid simple, but it also manages to be really simple, easy to find everything, but also have a ton of different settings, which I really appreciate. Now, as well as just having the OSD, you can also control this through LG's app, which is on-screen display. So you can actually download this to your Mac or Windows or whatever, and you can actually control the monitor settings through an application rather than using that joystick, which is very cool. This is also very helpful for doing the picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture, as I think it's easier to kind of decide what you want to pick or choose. So that's very cool. Overall, the menu system and controls get an absolute A+. Great job. Now for VESA compatibility. If you do want to mount this, this has a 100mm by 100mm VESA mount, and it does come with screws pre-installed in the back, which is super, super convenient. Now, beyond that, this is not going to be super hard to mount. As for a 32-inch panel, it's not incredibly heavy, weighing in at about 14.3 pounds. And that is without the stand. That's just the panel itself. So that'll kind of give you an idea if you do want to research a monitor mount, monitor arm mount, and then order it with this one. I'll actually link one below that I do recommend if you do want to do that. But now let's move on to the ports. This has 2 HDMI 2.0s, 1 DisplayPort 1.2, a USB Type-C, 2 USB Type-A's, and then a 3.5mm audio out. Now that USB Type-C is doing 60 watts of charging. It's the upstream port for those 2 USB Type-A's, and then it is a display connection. So if you do want to plug in a laptop into there, whether that's a MacBook Pro or a Dell XPS, something like that, you will be getting charging, display, and upstream data connections for those USBs in the back of the monitor, which is great. However, my only real con, and of this entire monitor, I absolutely love this monitor, and I'm probably actually going to keep this and switch it out to my main editing desk. But my only real con with this is that I wish this would output 90 watts instead of something like 60 watts. If it was doing more like 90 watts, that's something that you can use a 15 or a 16-inch MacBook Pro with that's actually going to fully charge this using an underload. 60 watts, probably enough for a smaller, possibly like the M1s. I'm actually not sure the wattage that those draw, but 90 watts is really that perfect spot. So that's the only real con here. Now the internal speakers. These speakers are actually, well, they're very, very good. Most monitor speakers absolutely suck. These are quite good. So this has really good clarity, like surprisingly good clarity. Of all of the monitors that I've reviewed, this may have the single best clarity, even when compared to BenQ's with a full subwoofer inside. That sounds better overall, but this one's clarity, it's extraordinarily clear. That being said, there is zero bass. Listening to music on this, it kind of hurt my ears because it's so clear, and it's really easy to hear people's voices and YouTube videos and tutorials and things like that. However, there's zero bass, and it's like there's no bass. But these are some of the best monitor speakers that I've used as far as clarity. So if you are doing like Zoom meetings, things like that, absolutely great for that, and no problems here. Now, before we get into the stand and build quality and then the price and value section and finish it up with my overall recommendations, we're gonna first quickly go over gaming performance. You can use the timestamps and just skip through if you do wanna skip this section. Okay, so right away, this was shockingly good. I know it's probably not what you were gonna expect me to say, but it was really, really good. Firstly, and most importantly, with a productivity monitor, the most important thing to talk about here is input lag. This has a very low input lag for a productivity-based monitor. Many productivity monitors have higher input lags that make it really pretty much impossible to game on, not even to get high KD ratios, but just enjoyable. They're usually not very enjoyable because the input lag is so high. This one has really low input lag. It's still 60 hertz, right? It still caps out at 60 hertz, so you're not gonna have input lags like high refresh rate monitors. But as far as a 60 hertz monitor, this has really, really low input lag. So gaming on this is legitimately fun. You obviously don't get the buttery smooth motion of high refresh rate displays, but you do have low input lag, and it was still fun to play some Battlefield. I still got kills. I still really enjoyed the experience. And obviously, no, you're not gonna be competing at a competitive level with 144 hertz and plus monitors, but the experience overall is very enjoyable. You can play some games on the weekend after your work, and that's just, well, it's great. As for screen tearing, it has a ton without FreeSync on, but well, this does have FreeSync, which is sweet. When it is on, you still have a little bit of screen tearing. You will notice it here and there, but it doesn't get super annoying. Like without it on, super annoying. It's like everywhere. It's whenever you do anything that has movement, but with FreeSync on, it just happens a few times, and overall it wasn't annoying really at all. I was expecting worse than this, and it just exceeded my expectations. Now again, remember, this is for a productivity monitor. This is not something you're gonna be competitively gaming on, but the experience is enjoyable. All right, and lastly, we're gonna talk about ghosting. In the fastest response time setting, there is pixel overshooting, inverse ghosting. However, in the fast setting, there is no pixel overshooting and very, very little ghosting. Like, who would have thought? Like, people are actually tuning this at LG for gaming performance. It's great. So there's like very, very little ghosting, and you won't really have an issue with smearing in game. There's a lot of pros here. Obviously, it's not competing with gaming monitors. Let's not expect that. But it's an enjoyable gaming experience, which is a lot to say here. If you want to game on the weekends and work during the week, well, you can do it. This is a weekend gaming machine. All right, but let's move on to stand and build quality. Now, the stand is pretty well made with a metal base and then plastic covering that on the base, but it is a silver painted plastic that kind of is like a metally finish, and that continues on with the height adjustable section. It's overall pretty well built. It's pretty well put together. Not perfect. There is a little bit of wobble, but definitely better than most of the competition. Although Dell may have a slight edge up here. But the one thing that I absolutely love is the base of the stand does not really protrude that much farther than the screen itself. When I had it at normal tilt, just sitting there, it was only protruding about this much, if you can see that, this much. very small amount. So overall, with a 32-inch screen size, you're still not taking up a whole lot of space on your desk with that base of the stand, which is, well, a really big deal. Then for the adjustability, it has height, a lot of tilt, and then it has full rotation going fully vertical. So if you do want to do some coding or edit pictures in vertical mode, you can absolutely do that. The one thing I will say is that you cannot make it go vertical both ways, only one way. Probably not a con for a lot of people, but for a very few amount of people, that may be a deal breaker. This also has a cable management clip, which you can clip in there and kind of hide those cables, or try to. It works reasonably well. Overall, I think this is exactly what you would expect. Okay, but now price and value. This retails for $549.99, and at that price, this is actually pretty good considering the professional work that you can do on this is awesome. The colors like kind of blew me away a little bit, just how good they were out of the box. And then Delta E 0.19, that's good. And then not to mention the bonus of having some pretty awesome gaming performance for what this is. But I think the really big value part here is if you can find this around $500 or even better, like $450. If you can find it around that level, this could be really, really good. I have seen this go as low as $400. At that price, this is absolutely amazing value for what it is. Unlike gaming monitors, a lot of these productivity monitors will go on sale a little bit more regularly. So if you can keep an eye on this, check the links below. And if you can pick one of these up on sale for $500, $450, or even better, $400, that is when serious value to dollar becomes very, very, very good. So overall, do I recommend this monitor? Well, if you're looking for a fantastic 32-inch 4K productivity / professional grade monitor that has great colors, great brightness, solid features, and build quality with an awesome bonus of having solid gaming performance, then absolutely yes, I love this monitor. Again, if you want to check it out, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. This monitor is probably going to be replacing my ultra-wide on my desk just because editing on this was very, very nice. Those colors were great. 4K at 32 inches, you just can't go wrong. All right, but this is Type C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.